Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Hairymuppet. Welcome back to some Shapes 2. And once again, I have been talking for exactly 5 seconds and I've already got the urge to start coughing. So we're going to have to deal with that. But yeah, here it is. This is phase 2. So we have this shape coming in. As you can see, it's a continuous belt. Ignore that. We're going to blame that on early access. But yeah, it is a continuous belt, continuous 4 belts of the shape coming in, and it is a pinned shape. So if we have a look over here and click this guy, there we go. The third layer is entirely pinned. So our MAM is now definitely capable of doing pins, so which means it's 100% capable of doing everything for the first random shape. Haven't got the second one, but the first one, 100% capable. Having said that, this is the first pin shape that showed up in my level, so I haven't tested it super thoroughly, but the way I've done it, I think should be workable. So yeah, we're going to go through and we're going to check this out. I'm going to go through a lot of detail. I won't go through 100% of the detail. If there's things that I missed and I've glossed over and you want to go back and find out more about it, feel free to watch the phase 1 video, because the phase 1 video went into a lot more detail for certain parts that I'm just going to skim over this time. So anyway, let's go and let's actually show where the MAM is. So I moved over this station to just a single cargo, single height, but I put more trains. So that's how the throughput stays good. So we're going to go all the way over to here. All those other factories are for the other milestones. And then this is the MAM. If you watched phase 1 and phase 0, you will notice a lot of things different here. I've squished it a lot more horizontally. The train lines look a lot neater. There's now a 6th train line which delivers the pins. I'll show you that input station in a little bit. And for those of you watching for the first time, we are going to have a very quick look at the inputs, and then yeah, we'll go back to the actual MAM. So let's go have a look at one of the inputs. This is one for the basic shape. It's the star. The input is the pointy thing on all 4 sides. Just goes in, 1 belt on each side, shoving into all 3 layers of the train. And we've got 4 different trains, 1 of each color. So red is the bottom layer, green is, actually red is the top layer, green is the next layer, so on and so forth, and white is the bottom layer. And if there's 3 layers, then blue is the bottom layer. Red is always the top layer, no matter how many layers there are. And you can see the trains just stacking up and getting the shapes out. So that's the shape. It's the same for every shape except the pins. This is the color train. Same deal, 7 wagons. Each wagon is 1 color, absolutely stacking them up. It's got a nice little merge situation going over here. So we've got red, blue, and green. And this belt is red, blue, and green mixed, with red at the top, blue in the middle, and green at the bottom. And the way this works is I've got these little color mixing stations. It takes green on the right, blue on the left, red down the bottom, creates yellow, creates teal, creates purple, or pink, creates white, and there's a bit of yellow. I'm not going to go too much into detail. If you want to know in more detail how this works, go look at my phase 1 video, because I go into a lot more detail. What we are going to look at in a bit more detail is this guy. So this guy makes the pins, and this is a single level, 4 pins, nothing else. And you can see the blue one is for my 3rd layer, which is the one which is entirely pinned. So that's why it got picked up. So we are going to go through this in a fair bit of detail. So over here, we've got 2 shapes coming in. The exact shape is completely irrelevant. What's important is that there are 2, is that the right-hand side has got something on it. If there's only 1 shape on the right-hand side, it doesn't work. It has to have 2 shapes. Now, there probably are easier ways to do this, but this is the way that I did it. So we cut off half of it. We crystallize that empty half. I haven't tried crystallizing nothing. I'm not sure if you can crystallize nothing. So, yeah, there's basically I crystallize half of it, send it through, rotate it, cut off the bit that's not the crystal, and then we pin it. So this is now, click, please. Yeah, so now this is a crystal on pins, half and half. So what we do then is we basically just smash it down on top of this shape, which is just a half, but on the other side. So this guy has nothing to it. We just cut it and then it's a half. So what happens is the crystal, when it stacks, the crystal gets smashed because you can't have a crystal stacking from the top. It just doesn't work. But the pins are left over. So you end up with this shape, which is half rectangle, half pins. Then we cut off the rectangle bit, just leaving the pins, and we join it with another belt, and this is exactly the same factory. So these are complete duplicates of each other. So the other one produces pins from the other half. We stack them together to get a full pin, and that is our full pin. And I've got 3 of those total factories, all going in here, all filling up 3 layers of the train. So we've got the same amount of throughput that we do have for every other shape on the pins. So that is what you need to do to get the pins. And let's go to the actual MAM. And first thing you need to do, we'll talk about, is over here. And this is very important. So this is the sort of first logical step that you want to take. So this is a global wire receiver set to random operator shape number 0. So 0 is this one. 1 is the crystal one. So 1 is this one over here. So we set up to 0. We do some simulated unstacking, which is sending these signals through, and they just basically get unstacked. So yeah, it's a virtual operation, not a real one. And the signal is passing the shape around. So you can see this is the shape that comes out, gets passed over to here. We unstack it once, and the unstacker just pulls up the top layer and sends the rest down. So we do it over and over again. And so yeah, the top layer we send into the channel 0 red global wire transmitter, second layer into green, third layer into blue, fourth layer into cyan. Now I also do some funky thing as well. You don't need these, but I do them anyway. You stack the first layer on top of the second layer, and there's some fancy logic here. And what this is doing is it's saying if the second layer is null, which it will be if this is empty, if there's no shape. So in other words, if you've got a shape that's a single level, then this one will output the shape, this one will output null. This check will be true, and what it'll do is it'll gate through that signal. So this signal will go over and it'll get gated through. And what happens is instead of this being a stack, you will just get this one here. And this is 100% necessary because if one of the inputs to the simulated stacker is null, it will output null. It won't be smart and just output one of the shapes like a real stacker would do. Well, in fact, a real stacker would block. It wouldn't do anything. So yeah, so you have to have this wraparound so that if there's an odd number of layers, then this comes out correctly. And we've got this one for the other section. So this is the bottom 2. This is layers 3 and 4. This is layers 1 and 2 stacked. Now I will have to chuck these out later, because when I do my crystal, I'm going to have a separate factory for the crystal, and the crystal is going to use 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the same way that this one uses 0, 1, 2, and 3, which means I can't use these for the normal shape anymore. So I'm going to have to do this manually everywhere that I currently do yellow, which is not that many places, but it's still a little bit annoying. So anyway, that's how you have to remember. So the red signal is the top layer, green is the next one down, and so on and so forth. And there's the completed shape. So yeah, that's the output going into the train station, only on one level. This is a dumper. So this is the random operator shape number 0, sends that signal off to the filter. And if this shape doesn't match that filter, it gets dumped. So I'll show you this later, but I got dumpers all over the place. And what it means is that the instant this shape changes, these dumpers will start throwing out all the leftovers, which you want to do as much as possible to get the... You don't have to do it as much as possible, But then again, you know, it's nice to do it, and it does help in some situations to sort of clean it up and make it nicer and make it easier, especially when you're switching over from let's go to the, I'll explain it a little bit, but let's start off at the actual factory. So we got our color station going in. These are all the colors. We're using a fair bit of purple here, or maybe that was left over from the last shape. And the shape ones, they're beautifully tiled, which did require more horizontal space, but these belts are incredibly fast. So if you look at the low level, these belts are 180 per minute. The top level ones are 180 per minute times 12. So the throughput loss you get from using the big belts is pretty much irrelevant. So that's why I choose to split these out, because it allows me to get less vertical space, which makes it a little bit faster for these guys. Although I'm using belts, it doesn't really matter, but it's nice. It looks nicer. So anyway, so this is the bottom layer, which is 3 circles and a purple square. So the way this works is, and if you watch my phase 1 video, you'll see it looks a lot cleaner now, because what I did was I moved the cutting after the painting. And what that means is that for each quarter, you only have to send 1 shape out. You don't need to set 4, you only need to send 1. So all my throughput issues with shapes have been completely solved. And for those new to watching this video, basically, this is taking channel 1 red, which we just talked about. We spit off the actual shape using this shape analyzer. And that takes the northeast corner, and this is the first quadrant, which is northeast, so it's already good. So this is what it pops out. We compare it. Is it equal to this hard-coded signal? If it is, we knot the signal so that it fails this one, and then it pops off and goes up the pipe. So if we go over to the circle, for example, this one is not equal to that one, so it knots it, comes out as true, and then this one just goes forward. But of course we block it there, because this is only for the first quadrant, this belt. And then these are for the second quadrant, and we send them off slightly differently here. But the rest of the 3 quadrants are all circles, so that's why all 3 of these belts are going full tilt. And it's pretty much the same for the rest of it. One thing I will mention that's very important is this guy, which is the matcher for the pin. You can configure this. You put P and 7 dashes. You can also put P and then a letter and then 6 dashes, which gives you the same icon, because pins obviously don't have colors. So I had PI with 6 dashes for a long time, and then the equals wasn't working and I was tearing my hair out. And finally I changed it to P with 7 dashes and it worked. So make sure P with 7 dashes in there. That's the only way that one will work. So anyway, that's how we get this one going through, and that gets the correct shape for each quarter. So the way we're working it is the one down the bottom is the top right, and then this one is the bottom right, and then this one is the bottom left. You can see we're flipping it 180. So this one, the bottom left, comes to the top right, then we shape analyze it, and there it is right there. And then the next one is the top left, and so on and so forth. So we'll have a look at these real quickly. So basically what it's doing is exactly the same thing. It's pulling out the shape at the top right, sending the actual shape over to here. And what this one's doing is it's recombining it into a full square. So, and then you can use the filter to actually dump it if it's not right, because there's no dumpers between here and the cutter. All of these paint things don't have dumpers on them. So yeah, you want to make sure you dump this as early as possible. Otherwise you end up with a lot of detritus going through the painting section when a shape changes. Now that's this dumper. This dumper is slightly different. This is the only one I've got in the entire system, and I just put it here as a kind of test. So what this does is it takes the shape, it says, is it equal to null? Not it, and in that case it would spit out 0, and it would start dumping everything. So basically what that means is if you have an empty quadrant, this thing will activate and it'll start dumping everything, which is nice, because otherwise you have an empty segment and this just sits there. It doesn't get dumped at all. It just sits there until another shape comes along. It doesn't break the machine. I'm not sure it even slows down the machine, but it's just nice to get it dumped out of the way. So yeah. Oh, and another thing I didn't quite mention is we are offloading all 3 levels down here, and then we're merging them all into one. We don't really need to, but this is just like insurance to make sure that this belt never, ever, ever gets empty. Ever, ever, ever. There is no conceivable way that this train station running out of resources will ever be the cause of an issue for this shape, for this quadrant. Yeah. And obviously before I was splitting all 4 belts off, so this made a lot more sense. Now I'm only splitting 1 belt off. You probably don't need it, but it's nice anyway. I cleaned up all the platforms, but I didn't clean up the way the trains work, but it's fine. It's still good. So over here we have the painter. The painter has been cleaned up a lot as well. I used to have 12 launchers and 4 pipes. Now I've just got 4 launchers and 4 pipes, because for each quadrant, all you need is 1 launcher, because it's 1800 a minute, and these are 450. So you need 1 launcher, 1 pipe, and the pipes are 7200, but we're only using 1800 of that pipe. And basically, this signal that we had, the purple one, we're sending that off down the line. This is the only place in the entire MAM where we are sending a signal between platforms. Every other place, we just pop down a global wire receiver, hit it to channel red or whatever we want, and then figure it out on the platform. This one we are sending across. You don't have to. You could have a global wire receiver. There's plenty of room on here. There wasn't before, but there is now. And yeah, so you can see we send that signal up. We compare it. Is it equal to white? Not that signal. Use it to knock this one off. So if we go just over here, we can see it is equal. So it's going to send these squares down, pop them down here, and then send them up this top belt and color them all down, which is beautiful. I love doing the belt splitting this way. It's not like a pure manifold where you just split it off every time. It splits it in half here, and then splits it in half again, and in half again. It increases throughput by a very tiny amount, and you don't have quite as much cache. But anyway, if this entire line gets backed up by somebody else, then you end up with these backed up anyway. But theoretically, it will just go through without any backup if there's nothing further down the line backing up. Yeah, so again, 1 pipe ends here, just like the shape filters. 1 pipe ends here, 3 go on, and then 1 ends here and 2 goes on. So it's a lot cleaner. It's not perfectly tileable like before, but it's a lot cleaner and it looks a lot nicer than it used to. Now this one is grey, it's not being coloured. So we just send it all the way through down to the end. I used to have a filter on grey colour on this block. I got rid of it because pins don't have a colour, so it was going to break this one. Okay, so we've done the painting, and if we go down here, we've got a full shape that has been painted. We split it across to 4. We do another filter. This is the same filter that we did before. There's a lot more fancy stuff going on here. There's a fancy bit to do with the pin. I'll explain that later, but most of what it's doing is it's basically the same filter as before. So it takes a corner, builds up into a 4 shape. The difference is that this time we're virtually painting it using the color, because obviously it's a painted shape, so we want to filter it based on the full painted color. So it chucks out these ones if they're not good. If they are good, then we do this fancy cutter, and this is how we're able to convert 1 input belt into 4 output belts, because these cutters are not wasteful. They don't chuck anything away. We are using 100% of the result. And so yeah, this is a 4 belt MAM, 4 belt output, and we only need 1 belt input because of the beautiful way these cutters work. Next is pretty much just the merger. So the way this works is, excuse me, this one basically figures out what the quadrant is for the bottom right. So we're taking the top right and we're figuring out, does the bottom right exist? If it exists, we send these ones into the middle to be stacked. If this doesn't exist, if this is empty on the bottom right, then the top right skips the stacker and goes around and just goes straight out. Which makes sense, because if you send it in the stacker, it'll just get stuck there until something else comes along that needs to be stacked. Got the identical thing on the other side. Yeah, so this is a slightly different way of getting the final shape. So this one, actually, if we go up here, we rotate it, and then we use the shape analyzer to pull out the color and the shape, and then we color them to get the thing. Here, we're not using the shape analyzer. We're just doing a bunch of rotating and virtual cuts, and it ends up with the same result. Two different ways, doing the same thing. They both work equally well. Yeah. This is maybe a little bit straightforward, but at the same time, it's a little bit more convoluted. But anyway, either way it works. So this, you basically stack them, and then we send them off, send them into a dumper. This is another little thing that figures out exactly what the shape should be. We dump everything as much as possible. It is a little bit of a slow throughput because this belt is obviously faster than this one, but still is pretty good. Then we do this here. We figure out what the left side of the shape is and decide if we want to skip the stacker for the right side. We don't. And same thing from the other side. And then we send it through to another dumper, which is the entire first layer. We're not doing anything. We're just completely doing it. And if we zoom out, everything we just looked at is one layer. And we got 4 of these. And they each have their own colored trains, their own stations. Potentially we could merge some of that, but yeah, having their own trains and their own stations and their own lines is, you don't have to worry about throughput at all. It is absolutely fantastic. And then over here is just more of the same. So this is the green one coming in, testing the red one, going through. And here's where we use magenta, which is that channel 4. So this is merging the top 2 layers prior to logic. So again, when I do the crystal MAM, I'm going to have to take this one away, and I'm going to have red and green here and do that merging thing on this one. I might have another platform down here where I do it and send it across as a signal over to this one, because it'll be very tight to fit it in here. I could push the belts up, but yeah, whatever. I'll probably have it as a separate platform and just send it across. Yeah, so that's the top 2 layers, and then they go over to here, and then the top 2 layers get added to the bottom 2 layers. And then this is the final signal, the final shape, and then the final shape goes all the way down, and we're back at the exit. And that's the MAM. That is pretty much the MAM. Now, we're not going to stop here. I'm going to explain the pin stuff a little bit quickly, so you can see what sort of special thing we had to do for the pin stuff. So this is the 3rd layer, and if you remember correctly, the 3rd layer is entirely pins. So we've got the 3rd layer, which is blue. Blue is comparing pin to pin. Remember, this is P followed by 7 dashes. There is no color assigned to that pin. So we get split off, and we treat it exactly the same pretty much everywhere down the line. These filters still work. We didn't have to do anything special for this one. It just goes through. Obviously, there's no color associated with it. The color comes out as null, which is fine. It doesn't equivalent to any of these colors, so it just goes through all the way down the end of the line. And then gets sent over here. Now, this is the place where we have to do fancy things for these filters to make sure that these pins go correctly. So I'm actually going to rotate a little bit so you can see the things a little bit clearer. So what happens here is the shape is a pin and the color is null, because of course the color is null. Now what happens there is this painter will return null, because we're trying to paint a shape with a null color, so it returns null, which is not good, because this is not, it should not be null. So what we do is, I think we did this similar in another place, but yeah, we take the signal, we say, is the shape equal to a pin? If it is, then this is a gate. So basically what this does is if you pass a 1 or a positive value into, I think it's usually just a 1. If you pass a 1 into this thing here, then it'll send this one through. So since this one is a pin, it's going to take the shape and it's just going to shove it straight into here. Now, this works because you're sending two different inputs into the same wire network. If it's a pin, only this input will be working. If it's not a pin, then presumably it's going to have a color and this input will be working. If you try and put two different inputs into the same wire, it'll go red and it'll start complaining. But in this case, it works because we're doing it fairly smartly. And then once you got the pin, you just virtually stack it into a 4 and the filter works exactly the same way. Everything else is fine. You don't need to do any special pin related stuff for the rest of the shape. It just goes through. Here we have our 4 stack of pins. All the other filters are correct. All the other things are good. And then we just send it across. We stack it on top of this. No issues, no problems. And that's how we end up with this beautiful little shape. If we go right here, 4 pins on top of the very bottom layer. Yeah, that's pretty good. So that has been pretty much everything. I went through it a little bit faster than I have the other few videos, but the other 3 videos I spent a lot of time talking about how we could do pins and stuff in the future. We don't need to do that anymore because we've done pins. So there's no real discussion to be had anymore. There we go. We can perfectly see the entire MAM. And yeah, it is fairly compact. But then again, it's fairly compact because it's only spitting out 4 belts. If it was spitting out 12 belts, it would be a lot less compact. Or these, because these are nice. Like these, if I don't say so myself, these are very nice. They're very easy to see. They're very easy to understand. They're very easy to decipher. I will make this this blueprint available on the Shapez 2 Discord. I did the same thing for phase 1. I will definitely do the same thing again for phase 2. And yeah, you can go ahead and play around with it. So yeah, now the only thing left to do now is to switch over to the next shape. So boom. Now we can see this one doesn't have any pins in it. So we're not going to see pin behavior and the pins are random. But yeah, we can see immediately these guys are going to start getting dumped because it's expecting a square. If we go to the very end, you can see these guys are immediately being dumped because the shape has changed. All of the shapes that's the beauty of global wire transmission. All of the shapes immediately get changed. Everything starts to get dumped ASAP. So let's actually have a look at what's being produced. So the top layer, and this is actually going to be a good idea because this is an empty one. So, and that's an empty at the top left position. So here we go. So this is a good example of this one working. So it's gone 0 and it started dumping this area. Now we've still got some leftovers. These are not going to get dumped because I haven't got a null dumper anywhere further down the line. But as I said, it doesn't really matter because when this thing has to produce an actual shape later on, then these are going to be dumped normally because they'll be compared against an actual shape. So this is not really necessary. I just put it in here because I wanted to try it and see how it goes. Oh, no, these are just some leftover crap from before when I was refactoring the base. Yeah, but that's fine. So let's have a look at the shape actually. So the full shape is square, square, and circle white. So we can see square, square, and circle are being sent over. This one looks like it's moving. The belt's not actually moving, but in the map view, it still goes right to left. And that does the same thing here. So we can, what we can actually do is just cut them out, replace them. That's still got some extra circles coming over. Anyway, yeah, that's fine. So square, square, and circle. These ones are grey, so they go all the way through. Grey. This one is white. You can see it's being routed down. And through the 4 painters, you do only need 4 painters for a belt. And it's beautiful. Now, this pipe going all the way down, if we follow it down, is this one here. It actually gets fed by 3 different launchers. This one pipe gets fed by 3 different launchers. So even when you're only painting one quadrant, all 3 of these will be sucked dry at the same rate. So you should always end up with these being, reduced at the same rate. So there's a nice little balancing technique right there to keep it going. And yeah, if we move over here, see the squares flowing beautifully on this side, flowing beautifully on this side. Now the downside to having a MAM, which is this big, we could actually see there's some crap that got left over here, because this should be a purple and then a top, and instead we've got some grey up the top. So this is left over from the old shape because we've got no dumpers right up against these stackers. So there's probably a lot of crap that was left over from between here and the stackers when the signals all changed. But we can see here, oh, what's going on here? Have I got the wrong shape? I know I'm red. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Oh, that's my bad. So the correct one is the correct one is the uncolored one, and the purple one is the crap one. I got confused because half this bloody shape is purple, so I assumed that purple was the correct one, but in this case, grey is the correct one. So yeah, we didn't actually see it, but the purple ones just got chucked away. They just got completely demolished as soon as they got to this one, and only the grey ones were let through. I could show you more dumping, but oh, here we go. Here's some more. These guys were sitting there forever. Sometimes they sit there, and then they have to wait for the other side to come in because they're sitting in the stacker, so they need something else to stack against. And then when they finally get stacked, they go through and they get dumped. You can see the circle is down the bottom left. Those guys had the left side from the new shape and the right side from the old shape. And these have the left side from the old shape and the right side from the new shape. So they're the complete opposite. And they're all going to get dumped and then replaced fairly quickly. And it's because of the distance from the belts from one side to the other side of stackers. Like this one's very quick to get to this stacker, but this one takes a lot longer. So that's why we had those ones up the top and those ones down the bottom and so on and so forth. But regardless, see, it starts off slow. Give it another minute or so and these belts will be 100% full, 100% throughput. Yeah, we can already see we got 100% throughput here. This side, 100% throughput. So it's just settling in, and eventually you'll get 100% throughput through the entire one. And the good thing about this one is you can zoom out and you can look at these big belts and say, okay, yes, we've got those 2 top layers, and then we got those 2 purple ones. So we have a look, there they are, the purple ones. And we've got some detritus over here. We've got some detritus up the top here. There's a lot of detritus of those little pins. They'll all get cleared out eventually. And yeah, everything will get cleared out and then they'll get stacked and then they'll get moved on. So that is the 100% phase 2 do everything with pins. Now, there are some weird things that it can't do, but I think those things are probably not possible. And I'm not sure exactly how to explain it. Imagine that you have a circle on top of 4 pins. And then imagine, so I wonder if I can actually demonstrate it. So I think I can actually demonstrate it here. Shape viewer. So what we do here is, okay, so imagine this shape. Now, this guy has a circle on top of 4 pins. Actually, I don't think that's... It's a very interesting shape. This shape might be possible. Actually, this one would be possible because the top two would get stacked, and then the third, and then it would be stacked on top of the third or fourth. But if I change this shape slightly to be this instead, this shape would be impossible for this MAM to currently do, because what it would do is it would stack the pins on top of this. This pin down would fall down to the bottom level, and the other three would stay on the second level. Now, it is possible to make this shape. What you have to do is you have to stack the second and third level together. And then I think you stack this one on top. I don't know exactly what would happen in that situation. I think this circle obviously wouldn't break apart. I don't know if the pin sticks to the shape above it. I have a feeling it doesn't. In which case, if you did these two first and then jammed it onto there, what I think would happen is this pin would fall off the bottom of the circle and then go down to the first layer. I suspect that's what would happen, because I don't think the pins are stuck to the shape above them. So I think this shape is impossible no matter what you do. And that's what I'm hoping, because if it does get stuck to the circle above it, then the shape is possible, but my MAM can't produce it. And that worries me a little bit. But I don't think that's the way pins work. I think the pin will fall straight down no matter what you do. Yeah. I mean, maybe you could make it stay up in the air with some weird crystal shenanigans or something like that, but I'm not going to worry about that. So we're going to assume that this shape is impossible. And I just worked out that you could actually change this and do the shape viewer, so that's nice. But yeah, assuming that is impossible, then, oh, look at this. We already got the final shape coming out. It's coming out very slowly, and there's still some detritus left there, but this is the final shape. It looks beautiful. And we're going to go to the final dumper, and it's moving through the final dumper, which means it is 100% correct. This is like a sanity check to make sure that nothing went wrong with the process. If it gets to this point and it goes through, then it's good. Now, you can see here we still got some leftovers. The leftovers are actually being destroyed as you send the new stuff down. So that's how you clear a station that has old stuff in it. So yeah, it's pretty nice. Not much else to really say. I got 3 trains going through here continuously. 1 train wasn't enough when it's a simple layer. I had it split up into 3 different layers, but then it sends it in caches of 3,000, which is not as good for throughput as caches of 1,000. So yeah, definitely switching it over to 3 is the better idea. Not really much else to explain in this video. What I'll do is I'll go into a little bit more detail of the coloring thing, because I skipped that because I said I'll just go back to the phase 1 video and watch it. I'll go back and explain it, because this has been, it's only 38 minutes. My last 2 videos were 50. So we'll go explain this. Oh geez, the cough's coming back. In a little bit more details, just to sort of double check. So what's happening here, and one thing that I wanted to highlight, is the way these fluid mixers work is a little bit non-intuitive. So here, to create 120 litres, you need 60 litres of each one, which means that you actually need, for all 8 of these mixers, all 8 outputs 4 belts. And in this case, I know that a belt can technically push out 7,200 litres per minute. So theoretically, what we could do is we could squish this all into one pipe, and at the other side split that one pipe out into 4 launches. I have done stuff like that in the past. There's nothing like that in this MAM. We don't need to do it anymore because we moved the cutting after the painting, so the throughput requirement for the painters is now very, very low. So basically, I just treat every single pipe as if it's 1,800 litres per minute. So yeah, so you can see this for this setup, we're producing 4 launches, 1,800 litres per minute, 4 pipes. It only takes 4 pipes input, 2 blue and 2 green. And that's because of the way the mixer works, where it doesn't lose anything. It doesn't throw any volume away. And the interesting thing about that is to produce 4 pipes for white, you need 2 blue, 1 red, and 1 green. And you can do it in any order you want. You could use 1 blue, 1 red, and 2 green, and it would work just as well. And this is definitely enough for, I mean, theoretically, it's enough. Now, here's the thing. I've got 3 of these blocks total working. So 1 here, and 1 all the way over there. And they're all identical. All 3 of those are identical. So we're producing 12 pipes for each color. Now, theoretically, a shape could have 16 quadrants, all of the same color. So theoretically, this setup isn't enough if all 16 quadrants are red. But then again, it probably would be enough to fulfill the shape's requirements, because look how much cache there is. And all the trains are full. They're all running around full, but we're never going to run into that situation. And I guess you could say the same thing about the shapes as well, because like this guy is producing 12. It's only enough for 12 quadrants. Theoretically, you could have 16. So, no, bloody earth, I better have a drink. I lasted 41 minutes without a serious cough. So yeah, theoretically, this MAM could run out, but the circumstances which would require the MAM to slow down because of input lag are so insanely, monumentally never going to happen that, yeah, it's not even worth thinking about. Yeah, I did really max out that color input because I was painting after cutting, but now that I'm painting before cutting, the fluid input is extremely minimal. So yeah, I'm way over producing inputs for what this MAM actually needs. But it's nice to know that the chances of me ever running out is pretty much none. So what do we got? We haven't actually got anything going through yet. Oh, we got 1 shape, 1 block. These are 1,080 each. 1 block has been created. Just to prove that what's going on, I actually I'm going to wait for this one to go through. Wait for a train. I worry about respawning a train because that train could be up the other end with one of these packages in it already, and I don't want to accidentally throw it out. You see, we've already created another one. The trains do not space themselves evenly over 1 line. So all 3 of these trains are kind of grouped up a little bit. Like 2 of them are right next to each other and the 3rd one is a little bit behind. So yeah, pretty soon we're going to have 2 trains come along and both of these packages, there we go. There's 1. And the next train is actually going to miss this one, I think. And then there's a 3rd train coming along there. So you can see the line is huge. All 3 of these trains are kind of grouped up. Maybe I should try and artificially space them out, but it doesn't really matter. The important thing is, oh, there was already a package over here. I must have just missed this one being dropped off, but there it is. The first package being dropped off. We've got 2 more on the way. And there we go. It is a happy little star, and this will count up to 1,080 and then stop. And there it goes. There's 1,080. So it kind of stalls a little bit at the start, but eventually it'll become continuous. Like we'll get 2 packets dropped off pretty soon. And then from that point on, the basic rule of trains is if the input into the station is 100% without delays, then the output from the station will be 100% without delays, assuming that your train throughput is up to it. So yeah, it's a nice, simple little rule. It does go a little bit haywire sometimes. Like all of these other lines are following that rule, and sometimes you get weird little gaps. I blame that on maybe a little bit of early access stuff. Maybe some weird thing is going on. I'm not sure. It should never happen, but it does happen quite a bit. I assume it's just like a little furphy. Like I mean, I think there was some sort of belt delay issues that have been noted and fixed in a beta patch that I haven't got around to yet. So, but those are with the big belts anyway. So here we go. So there's more shapes coming in. We're continuing to count up, and we are back where we started. We're looking at the hub. We're looking at the vortex, and some people have commented, why are you not sending trains into the vortex? Because this. because of this. Because if I was sending trains into the vortex, I could not do this. I could not zoom in and see this beautiful miasma of just shapes going into this. I need these other belts full as well. One of these other 4 belts is going to be for the Crystal MAM. If I was really insane, I'd have 8 belts for the normal MAM and the Crystal MAM, and then I'd completely saturate this one. But I'm not going to do that. I mean, once you got the MAM working, doubling the output, I don't know. I mean, I'm not really level chasing. I'm 2 levels away from level 200. I'm already in the top 0.15% of the world based on this. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to chase the leaderboard or anything like that. So we're just going to send it through, enjoy all the pretty colors. And that has been my MAM video. So we're not actually going to finish it off here. We're going to finish it off on a much more beautiful site. And that is this site, the MAM. Look at this giant factory. Look at all the trains zooming around. It is absolutely phenomenally beautiful. And I love the fact that I made it look so clean. All the platforms are clean. There's no belt clutter. Theoretically, you could have a similarly sized factory with 12 belts of output, and you'd probably be able to make it happen. I mean, this one, you could 100% make it happen. You just add up some more belts on the top. This one, not an issue. Painting, you would struggle to get, I mean, maybe not struggle, maybe struggle's the wrong word, because we're doing 4 launches, so you just up it to 12 launches, and then you just got to get 12 pipes across, and you've got to get 12 of these in each one. It would be a stretch. It would be a big stretch to get all of those pipes, but the first one would probably be the worst. We've got to get 12 pipes across, and then the next one you'd only need to get 8 pipes across, or no, it's 9 pipes across or something. So get easier to get on. But this one would be, it would be fairly difficult. This one easy. This one, I think you just stack these on top of it. Getting the filter working might be painful because you got 3 levels of belts going across. This one, again, might be painful. But look, I put it on a 3x3. Yeah, you're not going to have any problems making this one with 12 belts in the same space. Because there's just so much space here. It's insane. Maybe what you do is you do a 2x2, and then you flip this so it actually spits it out on the top level. But yeah, you could definitely make this similar sized MAM with 12 belt throughput instead of 4. And the stations are already set up for it, but I'm not going to do that because meh. What I am going to do is, well, Crystal MAM, number 1. And then after that, I'm not sure. After that, I might do a hexagonal MAM for both the shape number 1 and shape number 2. So a hexagonal Crystal MAM. And then I might do an insane MAM. I don't think I'd ever do an insane hexagonal MAM, but an insane MAM. Because with an insane MAM, you got 5 layers. And yeah, that's interesting because you couldn't build an insane MAM and an insane Crystal MAM in the same thing because you would need 10 of these channels and there's only 8. That would be a very interesting sort of way to work it. And the trains as well. The trains would be a little bit more annoying because there's only 4 train colors, but you've got 5 layers. So that would be another interesting sort of thing. But yeah, first things first, Crystal MAM. And then I might start playing around with hexagons. I'm not sure. I'd prefer to play around with hexagons than I would going and playing with the 5 level. Because I already started a hexagon playthrough and it's a little bit fun. It's annoying. Hexagons are really annoying, but it's kind of fun. So anyway, Crystal MAM number 1. And hopefully I could just smash out, because I've heard nightmare rumors about a Crystal MAM, about the way you need to do it. But I've got a pretty big brain, so I feel like my plan is pretty sound. And my plan is just build up 1 layer. If it needs crystallizing, crystallize it. And then build up the second layer, stack the second layer on top of the first layer. If the second layer needs crystallizing, crystallize it after you've stacked it on top of the first layer. And you do the same thing for the third and the fourth. So you build up both layers, you crystallize the current highest level, the current highest layer, and then you stack the next one on top of it, and you crystallize that one once it's already stacked. And as long as you don't have different colored crystals on the same layer, then you're fine. As soon as you start having separate colored crystals on the same layer, then you have to start doing fancy stuff with, what is it? This guy, the swapper. You can no longer use the stacker, you have to start using the swapper. And that's going to get crazy. That would be a crazy MAM. So, well, let's see. I don't know exactly what shapes are going to come out. All I know is it's this one, and that one doesn't seem too bad. But it would be nice if I could sort of figure out exactly what the rules are for creating the things. But the plan I've got currently, I'm happy with. And look at this. Beautiful, beautiful. We're halfway done. So, yeah, it's probably taken about 20, it'll probably take about half an hour for each shape to be done. And obviously, yeah, there's probably at least, I'd say at least 5 to 10 minutes lead up time before the shape starts being produced. And once it's being produced, we're producing 720 per minute. So yeah, for this much, it's 20 minutes, approximately 20 minutes to fulfill this, 10 minutes lead up time approximately. Yeah, half an hour per shape, half an hour per level. That's not great. It's really not great. So that's why a lot of people are probably building MAMs with 12. But even if you're building a 12 one, you've got to really contract your MAM, make it nice and small to get around that 10-minute lead time. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm Crystal MAM #1. That'll be what I do. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave them in. I do hope you enjoyed. Phase 2 is done. All that's left is crystals. And I'm looking at this. I will upload the blueprint, but I'm looking at this and it looks beautiful. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you guys later.